Well, as you can see, it's time for the rigs and techniques here at the Yak Gear Workbench. You know, Dave, in the Murphy household, catching a pinfish is something we use a lot.
Yeah, that's how you start your day.
Absolutely.
You hit those pinfish traps and collect all your pinfish and put them in your live well and go try to catch some fish with them.
So why don't we talk a little bit about some...
Well, you know, croakers get a lot of play in Texas, and but there's, you know, you can catch, you know, pinfish in Texas. There's a lot of grass flats with a lot of pinfish on them, and a pinfish is a great bait for sea trout and redfish and just about anything that swims in the ocean that eats a little fish. And, you know, a pinfish trap is a good way to catch them. You know, you can take these off, put them, you know, find a nice grass flat with a lot of, you know, grass on it, and you can drop one of these traps in there with a little chum and maybe some squid inside and catch you a big bunch of pinfish for your day.
So I'm going to add to that. A lot of times they don't have grass in some of the coastal regions, but what they do have is they have fish cleaning stations and docks.
Yes, right.
And the cool part about that is you could literally drop this with your chum. Now remember this about chum, guys, is the chum's only going to fish for the amount of time until the chum's all gone and diluted. Mm-hmm. That's usually about 2 hours. So we always add a little box of squid. You can take your pogies, you can take whatever bait fish that you have that's frozen.
Cigar minnows or pilchards or whatever.
Just cut them in half and drop 6 or 7 in there. That way after the chum's gone, you actually have something that's fishing for you. Now, here's what's really important. Most pinfish traps, they come like this. They have the weights on the side, and then they have the entrance where the fish will come right here on the bottom. The bad news about this is if you drop this in the grass, you're covering up half of the entrance. If you drop it in the silty bottom, you're covering up half of the entrance. So now you're gonna be catching these small pinfish because that's what can go in the entrance. So a few years ago, Ridge taught me this, my son Ridge, is what we do now is we rig these things to where it's actually upside down. Mm-hmm. So we put the weight, which would be on the top, and so the entrance now are on the top. And that way, if you have half of grass or it's laying in soft bottom, your entrance isn't covered, and you're catching a lot bigger pinfish. You're catching the mediums and the large. Don't forget, Dave, in Texas, they got ling, or the cobias.
Right.
They also have those big trout love pinfish. Then you got the snapper fishing offshore. You got lots of things
Snappers,
that are gonna eat a
groupers,
pinfish.
everything offshore will eat a pinfish on the bottom.
And truthfully, just like in Florida, that pinfish, according to Carl, he's accessible 24/7, 365. He's like number 2 or number 3 in the ecosystem.
Right.
So he's available to be caught. Remember this about that. You attach your little cord, bending on the depth, we put a little tiny cork because we have a lot of thieves that like to steal our stuff.
Just make sure make sure you follow the Texas law about the size of the buoy that you need, and you might even need a little gear tag or something like that. Just make sure you look it up and get all your stuff in order.
Now, if you have access to clear water, same principles apply. We want our entrance to be up off of the top, but I quit giving to the thieves. So I'm using some Berkeley 200-pound hollow core right here. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually attaching the chartreuse buoy, and this is laying in 4 or 5 feet of water, but guess what? I go up there with a little tickle gaff, or I can even just use a rod with a big jig head on it. And now this is floating, and I can reach down and grab it, and it's not exposed to the surface, and it's not being stolen.
Right. Just you just mark it on your GPS, and you can go right back there. And a good place to put them also is next to a channel marker. You know, a channel marker is always a good place to catch pinfish. And you know, we say we're catching pinfish. You can also catch little croakers and other little stuff in here.
We catch crabs in here. We catch all kinds of little things in here. So that's what I know as far as Pinfish 101. I think that'll help a lot of fellas.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you know? That's it? Pinfish 101, that's all we get?
That's it. That's all you get.